Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning on the 1st of Ramazan, 1440 Hijri, ladies and gentlemen. I think everybody out there is ecstatic of the fact that Ramazan has finally started. We're right here to get our Ramazan special transmission getting started with you over here. With me, ladies and gentlemen, I have the very amazing Shiza Hashmi. And I am Shazad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today?
I'm absolutely feeling great and ecstatic, like you very rightly said, because of course it's the first of Ramzan, and I feel like everyone around me is extra kind today.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the spirit of Ramzan.
I think that's how it needs to be as well. You know, even before Ramzan started, I think everybody was getting excited. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is 1 month. You know, since we open our windows into 46 different countries, it's not very important that we open our windows into all Muslim majority countries as well. So for all those people who are actually not even Muslims, ladies and gentlemen, this is a month of festivity for us. This is the month where we actually, you know, bow down. I mean, throughout the year, we definitely seek for forgiveness, help, and whatnot from our Allah Almighty, from our Creator. But this is 1 month where we can take advantage of almost everything, you know, because of the fact that, you know, that we all know that our Creator is actually, I mean, I just fall short of words into how to explain that as well. You know, there's so many characteristics to him that we cannot even elaborate upon that as well. You know, the blessings we have been bestowed upon. He's Rahim, he's Rahman. You know, there's so many things to talk about, and I think that I feel special today.
Absolutely. And Shazad, I feel we're so lucky to have witnessed another Ramzan in our lives, right? And this is, ladies and gentlemen, the first Ashra, the first 10 days of Ramzan, which is called the first Ashra. It's all about mercy, practicing mercy, and, you know, also learning mercy from others as well. And the dua for this Ashra is, Rabbi khfir warham wa anta khairur rahimin.
Allah, please forgive me, have mercy on me, because you're the most merciful. That's the translation, ladies and gentlemen. And for the first 10 days, because Ramadan is divided into 3 ashras, the first is mercy, and the second and the third that definitely follows as well, where there's forgiveness.
Yes, and then there's release from the fire of hell.
Exactly. So that's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Every Muslim out there in this world right now definitely wants to get wants mercy. We definitely do not want to end up in hell, and yes, wants forgiveness as well.
Absolutely. So ladies and gentlemen, definitely we are going to talk about Ramadan, but we've picked something specific that we need to talk about. So lately there's a growing trend of women empowerment all around the country, but around the globe as well. Today we are going to talk about women empowerment, but in the religion, in the light of the religion Islam. Of course, Islam empowers women. When a baby girl is born in a house, it's so lucky. I mean, everyone around them is so lucky to have them. When she grows up and gets married, she completes her father's religion. You know that. And eventually, of course, when she becomes a mother, she has paradise under her feet. Of course, so this is basically just the start of empowerment of women that the religion gives us.
Exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, it is of vital importance that you really understand why we've actually picked up on such a topic, and that too on 1st of Ramadan. Because we wanted to highlight the role of women, which is actually been highlighted by Quran and the Islamic teachings as well, or by the Sunnah itself as well. So I think this was of imperative nature for everybody to understand. And all of these things have been under conversation, or probably people are emphasizing on all of those things. But we find quite a lot of different solutions to it, or probably we relate them with different backings as well, with different research work. But I think firstmost and the utmost is for us to understand how Islam, how our religion actually highlights the importance of the empowerment of women within the society, and how they can actually work with us, alongside us, shoulder to shoulder. And I think this is what is very important, and I think PTV is doing a great job as well, because of the fact that for the last 4.5 years or more, I've been hosting this show alongside a lady, or a lady has been hosting a show alongside me as well. So I think I feel wonderful that both the genders are representing the community, and I think it is very important. We definitely need to talk about all the other things as well, where we need to talk about the inclusive society. But let's get started with today. We've got another 27, 28, 29 days. Well, we'll leave that to the muftis as well for how many longer days the Ramadan is actually going to be. But I think it's going to be 29 or 30 days, what it usually is. But to talk about all of this, ladies and gentlemen, we are very, I'm very thankful to this lady that she's actually taken out time. She's a very busy lady herself as well, most recognized all over the globe. And so I think without any further ado, I should actually do her introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, she's an Islamic scholar and Islamic teacher herself. She's none other than Dr. Kanwal. Kaisar, Assalamu alaikum, Ramazan Mubarak.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's such a, feeling that you have entered Ramadan, and Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with this month of mercy.
Alhamdulillah. Yes. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. But since it's the first of Ramadan, it's our first Roza. So anything you want to share with people, just share that, and then we'll continue with the topic. Whatever you want to say.
I would say give out the message of love, peace, and tolerance. This is one important message that our deen gives out, and our religion and Islam teaches us, and we need to be like the true picture of that. And sometimes when we globally see horrific pictures of people who are showing less tolerance one way or the other within the family system and even at international level somewhere, that is not Islam. Exactly. And Ramadan, when we are celebrating at a global level, definitely brings out the beauty of Islam for everyone.
Right, that's so true. This is absolutely the true picture of Islam that we are here to represent. So, ma'am, you talked about family system. Let's get to that. Women holds such an important role in a family system. She's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a sister, she's everything. I mean, she's basically the backbone, the support system of a family, right? So let's start with that. The role that Islam bestows upon women and the empowerment that Islam gives to women.
Let us first define empowerment.
Yes,
because many times when people are talking about empowerment, they feel like bringing women out in a workforce or in a role that they probably don't even want to take up.
Right.
And it's like sort of, enhancing their load and like giving them some placard and slogans as to asking for their rights. Empowerment is when you feel very satisfied and very aligned in your own role. And when you recognize your own potential, when you recognize your responsibilities, and yes, you're also aware of your rights, but you don't stand up for your rights. What you do is you put in your share in a very positive manner, and that automatically brings back your rights to you.
Right.
So that's like, when you have a positive mindset, and that's when you understand where you stand and how you can be a productive part of the society.
Okay.
So as you said that why women feel that they are empowered by Islam, for that we need to understand the time frame before the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The times which you call when the pagan practices were on the rise, and then we call it the times of Jahiliyyah. The women, they were buried alive. The women, they were deprived from education.
Or any rights at all.
Any rights at all. Within the family, the man could just, leave the women or have multiple wives. And they could just, take them up or leave them, and they wouldn't have any standing anywhere in the society. So if we compare that kind of time frame and we come in our current times, we again have a lot of mounting struggles like that. We come across women, and again they are struggling for their rights, and they are getting sort of confused that if Islam says women have a standing and women have right, how come I don't see them practicing around? And that's a reality. That's a sad reality that we are coming across. And I feel that through your program, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us opportunity that we can convey this message to Muslims as well as non-Muslims, so everyone understands how we can empower our women.
Yeah, that's great. And ma'am, it is very beautifully said as well, and I think that these challenges are real. But for now, I think it is very important initially to make people understand that the role which has actually been given to the women in the light of Quran and the light of Islam.
Yeah, that is also very important, because women have been given a certain role which is pretty much parallel to the one that men have. For example, the role of women and men in their self-discipline, their self-control, their emotional control, their dealings with people around within the family and outside. That is similar. There is no disparity in that. Then comes specific roles. Like a role of a mother, it's different than role of a daughter, than role of a wife. Then if women are working, they have another kind of a role. If women are in the battlefield, they will come across a different scenario, and again the rulings are going to be applied in a different manner. She is a working lady, she is in business. So we get marvelous stories from the women in the times of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we find out there would be a female who would be totally domestic, she would be fine with her role. She'll be focusing on her family.
Exactly.
Then there is another woman who is leading a business.
Yeah, probably tradeswomen.
Yes, and she's fine over there. Very amazingly, we read about this lady who was sort of a surgeon in those times. And in one battlefield, we find out that one of the Sahabi, the companion of the Prophet, he was badly hurt and he was bleeding to death. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't opt for any male surgeon for him, but he opted for her. So, I mean, like, if they're skilled, the Islam tells us that they can have their own grounding and they can be well placed anywhere.
Absolutely.
Because ironically, when we see a woman in hijab, especially, or someone who is studying Quran, we feel that she doesn't have place in society. We sort of, you know, place her in a box, and we want her to stay in that box. So what we need to do is, this is a message starting from the 1st of Ramadan, that we need to empower our women within the homes, within the community, and at the global level as well.
Absolutely. So this Ramzan, I feel like we all should definitely pledge to empower women on a religious and more on a global level as well. But ma'am, you talked about different roles of women that we are definitely going to talk in the next shows, inshallah. We'll pick up on them individually. But I have a question, and I feel like a lot of women out there have this question as well. I've been told this over my life, but I want to make sure you have to tell me about this. So when a woman, a mother or a wife is fasting, and she has to prepare food for her kids or even her husband, she does not know how it tastes. While fasting, is she allowed to taste it?
A little bit, I think.
Yes, little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, basically, the thing is that if she, like, we are having Ramadan at the time when it's going to be pretty hot.
Oh, yes.
So what the women have to do is, I would advise all the women that probably you can cook in the evening or in the early hours, or you also sort of tame down your food. But yes, if you have kids who love to eat, who give you long list of things that they want on their food at the time of iftar, and especially husbands sometimes, they are very particular and picky about food. So alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this relaxation that the women, they can taste their food and they can, like,
Just
you
a
know,
little
fix
bit.
the
And
spices.
I think that's great too as well. But on a lighter note, ladies and gentlemen, I think that it's about time that we even discuss our favorite cuisines as well. You know, I'm sorry that we have to do it through.
Since we are fasting, it's
even
so
though
hard
we're
to
fasting, and for all those people who are out there, but this is what we're looking forward to, and it's going to be Maghrib time, and you know, we're going to open up our fast as well. So for me, I think, you know, every time I'm in an argument with my mom, is because of the fact that the quantity of the pakoras is less, you know. So this is like a regular fight. Ammi yaar pakode kyun itne kam hai? And you know, because you haven't eaten since morning, so what happens is that, you know, when you look at the quantity, you're like, yaar, you know, ye kam lag rahe hain. But then eventually when you start eating, and then you realize, oh, you know, that's quite a lot. And then you, throughout the night, you go into the kitchen, nibble a little, go back again. So what about you? What's your one pick in Ramadan?
Okay, so
or for me, it's kachori as well. Kachori, yes.
I don't know what a kachori is, but their fries, they're basin fries, basically pakoda fries.
yeah,
I have no idea what they
that's
call it.
right.
But you know, I felt like the same way that you just mentioned. You know, it feels like the food is so less, and you keep demanding your mom. But now, sadly, I do live away from them because I'm studying over here. But when I do live at my home and spend Ramzan with my family, so we divide roles. So Sehri, my sisters and I do, and then Iftari, my mom and probably a sister can do.
So Sehri is the easiest part, and you picked up
No,
on that.
I do Iftari.
Oh, you do Iftari.
Yeah, but
okay.
we switch roles as well. I do Iftari because then I have the liberty to cook everything that I like.
So, but you know how to cook?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Except for roti.
So I think one of the Iftaris she's going to make for us,
Inshallah.
ladies and gentlemen, and probably I'll just get something from the market. You know, I think that's how we can have a balance. But ma'am, moving on, you know, where we're talking about women empowerment, how does Quran, how does Islam highlight the importance of empowerment of women within this society, and how beneficial it's going to be for the society as well?
When we talk about women empowerment, there are a couple of verses, but right now I would like to point out to this verse, which is in Surah Nisa, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum allazi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida wa khalaqa minha zawjaha wa bassa minhuma rijalan kaseeran wa nisa. O mankind, fear Allah, who has created for you from the soul, one soul, and created you in the mates, and dispersed from both of them men and women. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again says, Ittaqullah, wattaqullah, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allazi tasa'aluna bihi wal arham. And based on that, you will be asked about each other, the relationships of the wombs. And inna Allaha kana alaykum raqiba. Indeed, Allah is ever over you an observer. Now, in this verse, especially is the talk of taqwa. When we usually read translation, as I did as well, and it says, have fear of Allah, have fear of Allah. And sometimes people say, see, that's what the religious people do, that they're always scaring us off. But
we lose the real essence of the
exactly. But
right?
taqwa is basically when you have this feeling that you are under the surveillance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that doesn't have a negative connotation to it all the time, because sometimes we are doing something great and we want someone to notice it and cherish it and give it a boost, and appreciation. So, and we are looking around for people to appreciate us, and we feel frustrated that I did so much and nobody even acknowledged it. But if we have taqwa, we remember that Allah is watching me all the time, so we will be cherishing it in ourselves. And that is also an aspect of empowerment, that we don't look around towards people for any appreciation, any reward, but we sort of develop our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a level when we feel that we are appreciated by Him. So taqwa is not only base of female empowerment, taqwa is also base of Ramadan.
Exactly.
When we look at that verse, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 183, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O believers, kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba alallazina min qablikum. The fasting has been prescribed for you as it was prescribed for the people before you. Now, what is amazing in this is that all the people of book, all the divine religions, they have fasting one way or the other.
Oh, yes, they do. You're right.
And wherever you would talk to people who are fasting, I mean, it might be different from the way Muslims do, but it teaches them self-discipline. It teaches them, talks about that discipline in them. So fasting has been described for you, and what's the reason for that? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you attain taqwa. You know, this is like a power source for us, that we remember, I'm doing everything for Allah's sake, I'm following His command, and even if I have resistance, I have pessimism, I have jealous people, envious people around me, I'm not going to fall prey to that. I am going to have my own positivity affect them, and I will feel empowered myself.
Wow, that is absolutely great.
That's amazing.
Like
and even in the shows to come, I think that we'll actually have to elaborate upon taqwa too as well. And this is what I want to do, because, you know, taqwa itself is such a
broad term.
Broad term that you cannot even do justice with it by just saying that, you know, okay, this and that as well. But you wanted to move on with the question?
I was actually saying as well that taqwa also, I feel like it happens to be, you know, when you're talking about spiritual empowerment. But that is what we're going to take on in the next time you're here, inshallah. Definitely, we're going to do so many shows over this period of Ramzan that we are going to share with you. Thank you so much for coming on, especially on the fest of Ramzan, ma'am. You have definitely enlightened us and made our day. Thank you so much.
But one more thing which I wanted to ask, ma'am. Before we wrap up the segment. No, it's perfectly all right. See, it's Ramadan, you know, she's actually saying sorry to me. You know, she's never ever said that. But ma'am, now, you know, I'm just sad about it. And I'm sad about it is because of the fact that elsewhere in the Muslim majority countries, whenever the Ramzan is approaching, so what they do is, you know, there's celebration, there's festivity, everybody's happy, they're going here and there, everybody's shopping and whatnot. Unfortunately, this is something which I haven't seen in our country. I'm very sorry to say that. If this is how I felt, this is my opinion, that, you know, we try to scare people. Oh, you know, Ramzan aa raha hai, aise nahi karo. Oh, Ramzan aa aise na karo. Sabzi mehengi ho rahi hai. You know, things like that. Why do you think that we actually have to fear the Ramadan, that, you know, Ramadan's coming? Why can't it be a festivity?
There should be festivity, and we all need to pool in our resources for that. Like when you go to Mid East especially, and you would see people becoming more generous. They will be giving out food, they will be lowering the prices of the commodities.
They grab your hands to come and eat food with them.
And they're very festive about going to the masajid, the mosque, and praying over there. So what we need to do is we need to talk to the right authorities in our country and also request them and push them and bring in that culture. Because we have become so much oriented on our bills and our budgets and again the pakoras that you have talked about.
I feel the festivities do begin but towards Chandrat, right? Towards the end of the Akhri Ashra. But really hope that for the next time probably we would start observing them by the beginning of the month as well.
And I think it's important too as well. But ladies and gentlemen, towards the end, I think the fun fact about my family is that it's not even the pakoras, it's not even the dahi ballas, it's not even the jalebis, the samosas, the kachoris. It's the ketchup we utilize a lot.
That's
sorry
so true.
to say that.
Chutney and ketchup,
the
yes.
4-liter bottles there, and I think 2 or 3 of them
Can we
do
please
consume
stop
them.
talking about
I mean,
food?
even towards the end, we're just, with the finger. Ketchup's
Yes,
tasty.
but so, yes, here's a blessing. We're going to stop talking about food. So on this note, we're heading out to a very short break. But when we come back, again, we have something so interesting to talk about. So you really do have to stay tuned.
Exactly. And then at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, in further programs, we'll actually be joined by dietitians who are actually going to let us know what to eat, what not to eat, how to keep yourself hydrated in Ramadan as well. So all you have to do is just, just stick to your TV screens and make sure that PTV World is on. We're going for a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning.
Good
Ramazan
morning.
Mubarak.
The Badshai Mosque, or the Royal Mosque in Lahore, commissioned by the 6th Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1671 and completed in 1673, is the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world. Epitomizing the beauty, passion and grandeur of the Mughal era. It is Lahore's most famous landmark and a major tourist attraction. Capable of accommodating 5,000 worshippers in its main prayer hall and a further 95,000 in its courtyard, it remains the largest mosque in the world. From 1673 to 1986, a period of 313 years, when overtaken in size by the completion of the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. Today, it remains the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world after Masjid al-Haram, Grand Mosque of Mecca, and Al-Masjid al-Nabwi, Prophet's Mosque in Medina. The Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca and the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. To appreciate its large size, the 4 minarets of the Badshai Mosque are 13.9 feet, 4.2 meters taller than those of the Taj Mahal, and the main platform of the Taj Mahal can fit inside the 278,784 square feet courtyard of the Badshai Mosque, which is the largest mosque courtyard in the world. Architectural wonders of Pakistan.
Welcome back to World This Morning with Shahzad Khan and Shiza Hashmi, the first of Ramzan. We are absolutely thrilled to be hosting this show for all of you, even during Ramzan. So in the first segment, definitely we spoke about how our religion empowers women and also, in relation to how, how we observe Ramzan as women and how the roles are in a family system. Absolutely. So sorry for that. But, right now we have picked up on something that is so important to talk about.
And I think it has to do a lot with empowerment, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
and building up on that, since we earlier talked about women empowerment, I think empowerment can be a cell phone in your hand, or empowerment can actually be, that you get a platform to speak about.
Yes,
and empowerment
absolutely.
can be so many other things where you actually confront in front of million people, telling them that this is something which is right as well.
Right. And Shahzad, actually there are a lot of people in Pakistan belonging to different segments of the society that do definitely need empowerment.
Exactly.
But who is going to stand for them? Who is going to sound their voice is the question. So some of those people have actually stood up themselves to sound their voice, and of all the 9 million people who are living with a hearing aid probably, or any sort of, impairment, visual or different kinds, right?
Exactly.
So they are here on the show. They're going to talk about how they went about it. And I feel like
and just wanted to add a little to the introduction,
please.
Shiza, over here, where I just wanted to say that since I was talking about empowerment being a cell phone in your hand, but to use all of these tools, ladies and gentlemen, or to be on these platforms, you really need to see, you really need to hear, you really need to have that capacity or the ability to deliver, right? But then half of the time, ladies and gentlemen, there are things which happens to you in your life which you might not have ever expected. For example, somebody who actually when he was or she was born could hear, but now he or she cannot. For somebody who could talk, but now he or she cannot. I mean, one way or the other, these things can happen to you by birth too as well. But then there are people who've taken it seriously because they think that empowerment is for everybody and it needs to be inclusive. So what they did was that they came up with the idea of developing an application which is with the name of DefTalk. And what it is, they have actually won 2 international awards and an incubator funding too as well, which I'm not going to mention how much it was, but they're going to be talking about it and how everybody else can actually benefit from it as well, because I assume that it's for free for people to use as well.
Right,
it's not, well, we'll talk about it. That's debatable. And there's a reason that I've actually touched upon this as well, that whenever we talk about such a technology being introduced, I think, and then we want it to be inclusive, I think it needs to be free too as well.
Right, Shahzad, and it usually does happen more usual than often. You often go to a doctor or probably a shopkeeper or something.
Imagine how difficult it might get.
Yeah, if you can't hear, you're talking to them, but you can't actually listen to what they're saying. And most of the time, laymen like us, even doctors and people out there, don't even know sign language. So there has to be a mediator or a facilitator or an interpreter.
That's a C, and that's a D, I guess.
Okay, so that who needs to, mediate the conversation or the communication between such people.
Exactly. So on my right-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by Youth Employment Development Specialist. He's none other Mr. Akbar Durrani. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good. How are you?
Thank you very much for joining us. Ramazan Mubarak. Congratulations once again that we actually got to keep fast during this Ramazan, and Allah gave us this Ramazan too as well. Alongside Mr. Akbar Durrani, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by somebody who's actually visually impaired. He's a person with special needs. It was his brainchild that he came up with this idea. Okay, when I go to the doctor, how am I going to listen to him, or probably how am I going to communicate and things like these as well. He's none other than Mr. Ali Shabbar.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. But I really want to correct my pronunciation of Shabbar. Is it Shabbar?
It is Shabbar.
It is Shabbar. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, I'm already correct. And alongside Mr. Ali Shabbar, ladies and gentlemen, we've got somebody who's actually hearing got impaired. Well, he wasn't like that, but and then eventually he actually struggled within Pakistan to complete his education. So he had to move to United States. Stayed in New York. Wow, what a great life you've got to yourself, alhamdulillah. And he's none other than Mr. Vamek Hassan. Hello, assalamu alaikum, Ramazan Mubarak. Well, मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ, बहुत शुक्रिया आने के लिए. So Mr. Ali, we're going to get the conversation started with you. What is DefTalk?
DefTalk is an online sign language interpretation services. Initially, we started with the social media platform, which is Skype, WhatsApp, and Facebook, by using their video calling solutions. In this way, any deaf persons visits to a doctor or to a shopkeeper, even in the classroom, they just connect us through that social media platforms, and our interpreters sitting anywhere in Pakistan facilitate in translating whatever teacher, doctor, and the general public is talking to them. But now we have an app, mobile app, which is available on iOS platforms and Android platforms, both called DefTalk. So through that application, deaf people has just easy access, just one click away to the quality sign language interpreter. So they can have better communications with the market, with the general public, with the doctors, with the teachers, even with the parents and family members.
Right. Ali, we will definitely get back to that in detail, how it started and everything. But moving on to Mr. Durrani over here. I feel like if there were no cell phones or, laptops or any sort of assistive technology, we wouldn't have been so inclusive as we are today. Talk to us about the situation on ground. Talk to us about the schools that don't even teach basic sign language to their students.
Yes. So Basically, there are a lot of issues in Pakistan, and one of them is related to not having the right sort of platforms or not having the right facilities for people with disabilities. I mean, you see a lot of the buildings that don't have a ramp where people could who can't walk can use a wheelchair to just get into a building. So things as basic as a ramp, and then we could go to any level of sort of sophistication in terms of facilitating people with disabilities. So we have a lot of issues in Pakistan in general. I'll talk a little bit about our program, which is the Youth Empowerment Program by UNDP, which primarily aims to empower youth, as the name suggests, socially empowering them as well as economically empowering them. Particularly in economic empowerment, we work with youth like Ali and Wamik who have startups or who have businesses that have a very strong social impact. So we promote these kind of businesses. We promote youth through our assistance so that they can expand their business. They can make an impact. By impact, I mean a social impact where they can serve their communities to become economically independent. Yes. So under our program, we helped Deaf Talk to secure a placement in within a regional competition where they eventually excel to win the main prize.
Yes, wow! Congratulations on that, Ali and Wamik. Yes.
Yeah, in Vietnam, it was an initiative called Youth Collab, and then they went on to win 2 other international awards.
Well, that's great, and I'll really take a minute to actually appreciate UNDP's initiative as well, ladies and gentlemen, because it could have been for people who can actually see, who can actually talk, or who can actually listen as well, who are born with all of those 6 senses as well. But eventually, I think that, this idea is brilliant in the first place, that they came up with this idea. You guys have done a great job as well, that, it's not just the youth. I mean, when they say youth, it means that anybody amongst the youth can actually be a part of this program, which I think is super. But Vamik, what is your contribution to Deaf Talk?
30% contribution. I'm looking at mentioned that I have done my computer engineering from New York. Wow. So currently I'm looking after the technical affairs of the Deaf Talk, which include the development of app, website, and to make sure that every interpreter and deaf person have an access to the app without any problem and running smoothly.
Wow, that is such a great job that you have.
He is the first deaf across South Asia who done the software engineering.
Wow.
Wow.
I think that's great. But now I want to get into details as well. For somebody who's actually, for example, when we talk about Deaf Talk, is it only useful for people who cannot hear?
Yeah, it is only for deaf people.
So Ali, how did you become a part of it as well? Because you can hear properly, you can speak properly as well, you're visually impaired. So how did it all work out like
this? Or
this?
did you just do it for your friend?
No, actually, I was being part of disability movement in Pakistan through different organizations. And my role was the advocacy and policy making for the persons with disabilities.
Wow.
So there is a convention which Pakistan has ratified in 2011 called UNCRPT. It's United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So its article first says all rights for all persons with disabilities. But that's not the case in most of the part of the globe. Because physical disabilities and blind has some sort of advantages because they can speak. And hearing and intellectual disabilities are the most discriminated disabilities among the disability community as well.
All right.
That was one of the case in 2016 when we were organizing mobile app awards with PTA, Pakistan Publication Authority. And the basic purpose for that award to develop certain apps and give awards to the app developers who provide benefits to persons with disabilities. So there were 5 applications who won the award, and out of that, 3 were physical and 2 for blind people. So after coming down from the stage, because Mamnoon Hussain at that time was the chief guest, I was very much relaxed that, we did a great job. But when I came down and Vamik was standing there and he started yelling on me, that again you discriminated deaf people. And there we realized, no, that was the biggest mistake which we did.
Okay.
And now we have to do something for that.
Wow.
Okay, Ali, I also want you to share
Vamik,
this
thank you very much for yelling at him.
You made the right choice. But, you know, Ali, I also want you to share the story where you guys left your jobs. You guys were getting paid, alhamdulillah, pretty well. And then you had no job, and then you thought, okay, maybe this is a sign from Allah. Yeah, you have to start, right?
Yeah, that was the day when we started, because Vamik got angry with us that you again discriminated. And because, as I said, he was the only deaf software engineer in Pakistan, not only in Pakistan, but across South Asia, who done the software engineering. Because in our region, part of the region, the highest degree for the deaf community is the high school. Because they only facilitate in sign language because of the special education centers.
Exactly.
So he went to US for that particular part, and Vamik would narrate how he did it. But he's left the US citizenship. He came back to Pakistan because over there he was doing a very great job. Then in Pakistan, he came up with a great multinational telco company again. And he was the Rudolph factor in that part, that we need to work on it. And if we not getting part of it, nobody will do it. Right. So initially we came up with that idea. We discussed with our organizations, but we cannot get a very positive response from our organization. So there is a program by Ministry of IT called NIC, National Incubation Center, funded by Ignite, which is previously known as R&D Fund. So they launched an applications, and we applied for it. And when we got selected, we went there, we got, it's a jazz organization.
Right.
And jazz
you misunderstood.
We misunderstood because of the communication barrier, because I cannot see and Vamik cannot hear. So that was one of the misunderstanding, because we both complement each other. He's my eyes most of the time, but now 90% of the time he's my eyes and I'm his ears. So there we was misunderstood, and when we got that idea, that's now we scare our idea, we immediately go back to our organization and put a resign. Without taking care, what will, but after a couple of days we realized, it's a co-working space and mentoring. But that's one of the conviction towards that idea, which leads, because we started that in April 5th, 2018, and on April 5th, 2019, we were the Asia Best Pacific Startup Award.
That is absolutely commendable. But Mr. Durrani, now you have to explain how the app works, because this is not only app on Android and iOS, but it's also on social media platforms, right? So please go ahead and tell all the people out there.
I think I'll leave it to Ali and Vamik to explain the actual workings, but I think it works on the concept of shared economy platform, and we see a lot of these big corporations who become big corporations. There were small startups like DevTalk before, and so they bank on that particular technology to provide a service that everyone can benefit from, and also economically empower people with disabilities. So, but they will tell you exactly.
Right. Before they do that, Mr. Durrani, what do you see? What do you think is the future of people living with any sort of disabilities now that we have such inclusive technology?
It's safe and secure.
Yes, I think the future is going to be much better than now.
Inshallah.
I think a lot of attention is now being drawn towards inclusiveness, not just by big sort of multinational corporations, but also small businesses, and smaller organizations are also advocating for this change to facilitate people with disabilities. So I think the future is much brighter than what it used to be, when there was little attention, when there was little investment made in facilitating people with disabilities. So I think it's going to be much better.
Great.
Wow, that's
Sorry,
great.
I think, and Vamik, we're going to come back to you as well. So how do you see these applications developing in the nearest future as well? And then for people who are actually visually impaired, do you think that there can be some applications which can be utilized by people who are visually impaired so that they can hear or probably do something for their own benefit?
Well, for visual impaired, there are certain applications. Particularly, I was using a couple of applications through which I completed my MS in supply chain management, and I did my job, which is called JAWS, Job Access with Speech. So it's whatever it's on the laptop or on the screen of the mobile, it speaks for me, and I do the work for it.
Amazing.
So that's one of the part where we realized that in terms of technology, there are things for physical and for visual impairment, but there is nothing for the deaf community. So we initiated that. And Vamik, how our app works?
The mobile app, where you download the app and register the profile. So you have two options. You can either request an interpreter or join as an interpreter. Wow. So what you do when you're deaf, you can request an interpreter, and it works exactly like Kareem and Uber mechanism where they can connect with the local interpreter who are online.
Wow, wherever they go.
Yeah. So after the service, it can depend on 5 to 1 hour or whatever. After the service, we have a rating feedback mechanism to make sure that a quality channel with interpretation services has been provided to the client and is satisfied to ensure the interpreter quality goes on.
And the interpreter gets paid too as well.
Yeah. As the previous case of you, that it's not free.
Yeah.
We charge 500 rupees for whole month.
Okay.
Whereas the Kalisha mechanism was the physical one-to-one sign language interpretation.
Yeah.
So for one session, they charge around 2,000 to 2,500 rupees.
Okay.
So it's 500 for whole month.
For whole month.
Wow.
And you just one click away, because previously you need to book the interpreters in advance prior for the meeting, 3 days prior or 4 days prior.
And we can do it in every part of the world. We could use it. So we'll be able to find interpreters no matter what happens.
Yes, no matter what happens. It's a global. That's why we become the best startup, because it is scalable across, because it can be first of Pakistan startups unicorn who can scale across the globe. Amazing. Because it's 466 million deaf people across the globe. And we would like to be the Google translator for that 500 million population.
Amazing that is. Congratulations for pulling this apart as well. Thank you very much, UNDP as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. It was wonderful to have you. That too on the 1st of Ramadan, where you've actually made an application which is going to make life easier for people who are actually living with visual or hearing impairments, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. So that is definitely a service to the society. And we definitely, PTV loves to educate you and appreciate such efforts. So if there's anything you learned from us, do write to us on our Facebook page. But before that, when you are, breaking your fast at iftari time today, do pray for all of us, because when you do that, that is the moment Allah definitely does listen to anything you pray for. Exactly. Any jais prayers though. So ladies and gentlemen, do remember us in your prayers, and write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
Well This Morning.
On Twitter.
Well This Morning without a G.
Daily Motion on YouTube.
Well This Morning. Well This Morning.
And the repeat is going to be at
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, watch you 3. Good morning. Thank you very much.